You wake up every morning with this gnawing sensation in your chest. Something's missing, but you can't quite put your finger on what it is. You scroll through social media, comparing your life to others, feeling even more hollow inside. You buy things, chase achievements, surround yourself with people, yet that emptiness persists. Today, I'm going to reveal why this happens to almost everyone, and more importantly, how to break free from this cycle that's stealing your peace. The moment you open your eyes each morning, your mind immediately starts running. Where does it go?
Straight to what you lack.
I need to check my messages. I should be further along by now. Why haven't I achieved more? This automatic pattern of thinking from a place of scarcity sets the tone for your entire day. But here's what most people don't realize. This feeling of incompleteness isn't actually about what you don't have. It's about how you've been conditioned to see yourself. Think about this for a moment. When you came into this world, were you incomplete? Did the universe somehow make a mistake with you? Of course not. You arrived whole, perfect, complete in your essence. But somewhere along the way, society taught you to believe otherwise. You learned that your worth depends on external validation, material possessions, and achievements. You internalized the message that you're only valuable if you're productive, successful, or impressive to others.
This is where the emptiness begins.
Not from actually lacking anything, but from believing you're supposed to be different than you are. Let me paint you a picture that might sound familiar.
Remember when you got your first smartphone?
You were so excited, so satisfied. This was it. This device would make your life complete. But then what happened? The newer model came out, and suddenly your phone felt outdated. The satisfaction you felt just months ago vanished, replaced by that familiar wanting. This pattern repeats itself endlessly. The promotion you thought would fulfill you leaves you eyeing the next position. The relationship you were certain would complete you reveals new problems and challenges. The house, the car, the vacation, each temporary high followed by the return of that persistent inner void. You're caught in what I call the satisfaction trap, always believing that the next external thing will finally fill that hole inside. But here's the brutal truth nobody wants to hear. No amount of external acquisition will ever permanently satisfy that inner emptiness.
Why?
Because the emptiness isn't really about lacking something outside of you. It's about disconnection from your authentic self. You've outsourced your sense of completeness to things beyond your control. Consider what happened during recent global challenges. When external freedoms were restricted, when people couldn't maintain their usual routines and social connections, what happened to their emotional well-being? Many fell apart completely because their entire sense of self was tied to circumstances they couldn't control. This revealed a fundamental weakness in how most people construct their identity and find meaning. The devastating realization is that you've been building your life satisfaction on incredibly shaky ground. Your happiness depends on keeping your job, maintaining relationships, preserving your health, sustaining your social status. But life doesn't guarantee any of these things. Change is the only constant, and everything you're clinging to for security is ultimately temporary. This creates a constant state of anxiety, even when things are going well.
Deep down, you know it could all disappear tomorrow.
So you're never truly relaxed, never truly at peace. You're always slightly on edge, protecting and maintaining the external conditions you believe you need to feel okay about yourself. The emptiness you feel is actually your authentic self crying out for recognition. It's the part of you that knows you're more than your achievements, more than your possessions, more than your social roles. But you've been so busy chasing external validation that you've lost touch with this inner wisdom. Fear plays a massive role in keeping you trapped in this cycle. You're afraid that if you stop chasing, if you stop achieving, if you stop accumulating, you'll somehow become less valuable. Society has convinced you that your worth is earned, not inherent. So you stay on the treadmill, running faster and faster toward a finish line that keeps moving further away. But what if I told you there's another way? What if the completeness you're seeking has been within you all along, waiting to be rediscovered rather than created? This isn't some mystical concept, it's a practical truth that can transform your daily experience. The first step is recognizing the patterns. Notice how often your thoughts go to what's missing instead of what's present. Observe how frequently you postpone contentment, telling yourself you'll be happy when you achieve the next goal. Become aware of how much mental energy you spend comparing yourself to others or worrying about maintaining your current circumstances. Start questioning the stories you tell yourself about what you need to be complete. Where did these beliefs come from? Are they actually true, or are they just ideas you absorbed from family, culture, and media? Most of your dissatisfaction comes from believing thoughts that aren't even originally yours. The real work begins when you start building a relationship with yourself that isn't dependent on external circumstances. This means learning to find value in your existence itself, not just in what you produce or achieve. It means developing the ability to sit with yourself without needing constant stimulation or distraction. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up on growth and goals. It means approaching these things from a place of wholeness rather than lack. When you act from completeness, your actions become expressions of who you are rather than desperate attempts to become someone else. Practice sitting quietly without any agenda. Notice the thoughts that arise about what you should be doing instead. These thoughts reveal how addicted you've become to constantly seeking and striving. The discomfort you feel in stillness is actually the discomfort of meeting yourself without all the external props you usually use to define who you are. Start paying attention to your inner dialogue throughout the day. How often are you criticizing yourself, comparing yourself to others, or focusing on what's wrong with your current situation? This mental chatter is what maintains the sense of emptiness and dissatisfaction. The transformation happens gradually as you begin to source your sense of completeness from within rather than from external achievements. You'll notice that you can enjoy success without being attached to it, and handle setbacks without being destroyed by them. Your emotional state becomes more stable because it's not constantly fluctuating based on circumstances beyond your control. This inner shift affects everything. Your relationships improve because you're not desperately seeking validation from others. Your work becomes more fulfilling because you're expressing yourself rather than proving yourself. Even simple daily activities take on a different quality because you're present with them rather than constantly thinking about what's next. The emptiness you've been trying to fill was never meant to be filled by anything external. It was meant to guide you back to yourself, back to the recognition of your inherent completeness. When you truly grasp this, the desperate seeking stops, and life becomes an exploration rather than a chase. Remember, you didn't come into this world incomplete. You came whole and somehow learned to see yourself as broken. The journey back to wholeness isn't about adding anything to yourself. It's about removing the false beliefs that convinced you something was missing in the first place. The peace you're seeking has always been your natural state. The joy, the contentment, the sense of being enough, these aren't things you need to create or achieve. They're what remains when you stop believing the stories that tell you otherwise. Your task isn't to fill the emptiness, but to recognize that what you thought was empty was actually always full.